A new large-scale war may break out in the Middle East in the coming days. Right now, many Western media outlets are reporting that Israel is once again preparing to attack Iran's nuclear facilities, which could lead to a large-scale war in the Middle East. There are no official statements regarding this attack, but right now the United States of America is evacuating diplomatic personnel from Iraq and Kuwait. In Israel, diplomats have been told that they are not allowed to leave certain areas. Well, the United States is also raising the alert level at its bases in the Middle East region. Moreover, in the past couple of weeks, there have been reports that Israeli aviation has been conducting training flights specifically to strike deeply protected targets, most likely on the territory of Iran. Moreover, there is a warning that commercial vessels should avoid this region in the near future and so on. In other words, there are many reports indicating that Israel and the United States are indeed preparing for an open attack on Iran. On the other hand, some experts are certain that there will most likely not be any attack in the near future. For one simple reason: the next round of negotiations between the United States and Iran regarding the nuclear deal is already scheduled for Sunday. And all this escalation of the situation looks more like a diplomatic trick and a diplomatic ploy. But signals from Tehran indicate that they are ready to withstand a bombing and are not going to back down. And today there was a statement that Iran, after the International Atomic Energy Agency announced that they had violated all the terms of the nuclear deal, is ready to further increase uranium enrichment. So friends, my name is Aleksey Pechiy. Today is June 12th according to the calendar. Let's take a comprehensive look at this whole situation, break everything down and try to draw some conclusions. Is a military operation against Iran being prepared, or is this more of a diplomatic trick? We'll go through everything step by step, but before we begin, I ask you to subscribe to this channel, like this episode and leave any comment you like. Also subscribe to my Telegram channel. The link is in the description of this video. There we post breaking news as it comes in, and I share my analytical thoughts with you on various events. So let's go through everything step by step now. Israel. Right now there are all these signs that it is preparing to attack Iran's nuclear facilities, which could lead to a large-scale war in the entire Middle East. What is currently known about the potential Israeli attack on Iran? A number of American media outlets are already reporting that Israel is ready to strike Iran in the near future. And according to their sources, this could further escalate tensions in the Middle East and undermine Donald Trump's efforts to reach a new deal that would block Tehran's path to developing a nuclear bomb. Fears of a possible attack and the prospect of retaliation forced Washington to evacuate its embassy in Iraq, the families of diplomats in Kuwait, and to withdraw Marines from the United States Navy base in Bahrain. The British Maritime Trade Organization recommended that ships exercise caution in the Persian Gulf, the Strait of Hormuz, and the Gulf of Oman. Its statement directly mentions the increased tensions that could escalate in the Middle East. It is unclear how large of an attack Israel might be preparing, or if it is preparing one at all. Official Israeli officials and White House representatives have not yet given any official comments on this matter. But for example, yesterday during a congressional hearing, when American military officials were asked what was happening, they said, "Let's report to you about the Middle East a little later." They said now is not the time, and to wait a few days to find out everything ourselves. Moreover, today Donald Trump was also asked what's happening, and I'll explain next how he responded. For several months, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had been persuading Trump to give the green light for strikes on Iran. Before that, in the spring, the United States President rejected another attack plan, insisting that he wanted to negotiate a nuclear deal with Iran. His special representative, Steve Witkoff, is still planning to participate in the 6th round of United States-Iran negotiations, which is expected to take place this coming Sunday in Oman. The day before, Trump stated that the United States would not allow Iran to obtain nuclear weapons. Well, when asked why the decision was made to evacuate diplomats and withdraw the military, Trump replied, quote, "You'll have to see." What kind of retaliatory strike could Iran be preparing if we assume that Israel and the United States are indeed getting ready to attack Iran? Western media reports that Iranian military and government officials have discussed responding to a potential Israeli strike. It is reported that Tehran has developed a plan for an immediate counterstrike using hundreds of ballistic missiles. Moreover, the threats are not directed at Israel alone. Iranian Defense Minister Aziz Nasrizadeh stated yesterday that the United States will suffer heavy losses if the nuclear deal negotiations fail. And here is his quote: "America will be forced to leave this region because all its military bases are within our reach, and we will not hesitate to target them in the countries where they are located." So this is a hint from Tehran that if the negotiations fail, and the negotiations are at their worst point right now, because the Iranians rejected the American proposal and said that on Sunday they would bring their own proposal for the nuclear deal, and supposedly let the Americans agree to it. And if they don't agree, then the Iranians start threatening to bomb all the American military bases in the region. Before that, on Tuesday, the head of United States Central Command, Michael Kurilla, reported to Congress that he had presented Trump and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth with a wide range of options for a potential strike on Iran. Iranian officials were outraged by this, leading to the current situation. The Board of Governors of the International Atomic Energy Agency, for the first time in nearly 20 years, approved a resolution stating that Iran has not fulfilled its obligations regarding inspections of its nuclear program for many years. In other words, Iran simply does not allow International Atomic Energy Agency inspectors into its nuclear facilities. This suggests that it definitely has something to hide. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi warned that such a decision would force Iran to act decisively. What decision? What? The International Atomic Energy Agency announces that Iran is definitely hiding something and is most likely expanding its nuclear program, and Araghchi says we will respond to this. To better understand the situation, let's also discuss the question: what is the role of Iran's nuclear program in the conflict with Israel? The fact is, surprisingly, Iran and Israel were partners since the 1950s, but their friendship ended with the Islamic Revolution in Iran in 1979. Since then, Iranian leaders have called for the destruction of Israel and have supported groups like Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Yemeni Houthis. For a long time, the conflict between these two countries simmered at a relatively low level. Israel mainly carried out targeted operations, while Iran acted through its proxies in Lebanon and the Gaza Strip. The first direct clash occurred in April 2024. At that time, Iran launched a massive attack with missiles and drones in response to an Israeli airstrike on what was believed to be an Iranian diplomatic mission in Damascus. In July 2024, the leader of Hamas, Ismail Haniyeh, was eliminated in the very heart of the Iranian capital, after which another series of missile attacks and airstrikes took place in October. The current escalation is connected to the close attention being paid to Iran's nuclear potential. Israel has long considered the development of nuclear weapons a threat to its existence and has repeatedly warned that it will attack the nuclear program as soon as Tehran reaches the final stage. According to many experts, Iran's nuclear program has advanced significantly since Donald Trump withdrew the United States from the nuclear deal in 2018. There is an opinion that the nuclear program is now just one step away from enriching uranium to a level sufficient to create 10 nuclear warheads. Building the atomic bomb itself could take several months, but high-ranking Israeli officials consider the progress already made unacceptable and are threatening strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities. In their opinion, right now there is a golden opportunity to solve this problem. That is, they believe Iran is already on the home stretch, so they need to strike in order to simply destroy this nuclear potential. Including after the defeat of Tehran's key allies in the region and the serious weakening of Iran's air defense. After the strikes in the fall of 2024, it's the perfect time to deliver truly powerful blows. Interestingly, Israel had previously been accused of sabotage against Iran's nuclear program. It is believed that Israel is behind the elimination of 5 Iranian nuclear scientists since 2010. But in 2021, Tehran accused Israel of organizing an explosion at a key uranium enrichment facility. A large-scale airstrike by Israel would be an extreme option which is actually difficult to carry out successfully. The fact is that nuclear facilities are scattered all over Iran, and in recent years the most important ones have been moved deep underground. And intelligence also notes that strikes on nuclear facilities would only delay, but definitely not deprive the enemy of the ability to create that very atomic bomb. And another complication for such an attack is the need for Israeli combat aircraft to refuel in the air. And now I'll give you a few arguments that are currently circulating among experts in favor of the idea that a military operation is indeed being prepared. And in the coming days, we will see an open attack by Israel and possibly the United States on Iran. And arguments in favor of the idea that this is diplomatic pressure on Iran. A military operation is unlikely in the near future. You can draw your own conclusions. So, the arguments of those who believe that there will be no strike in the near future go something like this. Trump really doesn't want a war in the Middle East because Trump promised to end all wars, but as you can see, he hasn't succeeded at all so far. Well, the only thing he actually ended was the strikes on Yemen, which he himself started, but then realized how ineffective it was. So as they say, just shaking his fists. Of course, he can do it, he's ready to do it, but starting another war with the potential involvement of American troops doesn't seem to be in his plans. For Trump, it's possible to make threats and create the impression that a strike is imminent by moving aircraft around, as seen a few months ago. However, that's different from actually following through. But he's really not ready to start a big war. A lot has been said about the fact that Iran's nuclear program can't be stopped by bombings, considering that some key nuclear facilities are located deep underground. Again, the risk of a big war looms if you bomb, and the effectiveness is questionable. Negotiations may be at a standstill, but they haven't stopped, and I want to emphasize that the next round of talks will take place this Sunday in Oman. Against this backdrop, the seemingly increased threat of an Israeli attack is a lever of pressure on Tehran. In addition, they are also attributing this to Israel's internal political situation, because last night in Israel, the vote to dissolve the parliament failed, which would have led to early elections, so there will be no dissolution of the parliament now. And now, the same decision can only be voted on in the Knesset in 6 months. They can vote on this decision semi-annually. So, as you understand, for the next 6 months, Netanyahu's government is absolutely safe. It definitely won't be dissolved. And Netanyahu's opponents say that in times of crisis like this, Netanyahu likes to play the Iran card, saying, how can we break up the government at a time like this when we're just about to start attacking Iran? The coalition is now secure, and the Iran issue can be shelved for the time being despite claims that it couldn't be done. That's the prevailing narrative. On the other hand, Benjamin Netanyahu has been threatening to attack Iran for many years, and continuing to make such threats is almost more in his interest than actually carrying them out. In the same way, it's in Iran's interest to keep up the tension by declaring that they are about to obtain nuclear warheads, but never actually obtain them and just keep holding endless negotiations. And now, today in Tehran, they are officially announcing that they will increase uranium enrichment, hinting that they are about to get this nuclear bomb. This creates tension, but no one seems to be taking the next step. So in fact, it's just threatening rhetoric on the edge. Is a tool that you kind of don't want to give up. Well, another point that's now being attributed again to Israel's domestic political situation is that on Monday, Netanyahu's son Avner will have a wedding. And well, it might seem unimportant to some, but personal motives sometimes outweigh political security issues, especially in Israel, especially in the case of Netanyahu. Well, the hint is that he won't attack Iran while his son is having a wedding. But that's an argument that can be viewed in completely different ways. On the other hand, there is an opinion that a powerful attack on Iran will still happen in the near future. The increased American military activity, withdrawal of diplomats, and other actions suggest there are reasons behind their recent moves. The thing is, right now Iran's allies in the Middle East are considered to be the Shiite forces in Lebanon, Yemen, and Iraq. It used to be in Syria too, but not anymore. And for a long time, the strongest among them was the Lebanese Hezbollah, which was seriously weakened by the Israeli operation in the fall of 2024. Well, with the fall of Bashar Assad's regime in Syria, their only ally at the state level was also lost. Probably the Yemeni Houthis could play their part. They regularly launch ballistic missiles and drones at Israel, and they also attack commercial ships in the Red Sea. In addition, Iran has warm relations with Russia, although its war against Ukraine will most likely limit its ability to provide assistance. The United States and United Kingdom are backing Israel. In addition to their forces participating in intercepting Iranian missiles and drones, the presence of American troops has been increased. Right now, the aircraft carrier Carl Vinson is in the Arabian Sea with more than 60 aircraft on board, including the latest F-35 fighter jets. Several dozen more American combat aircraft are ready to come to Israel's aid. And it's possible that Israel may be making some preparations right now. But it's hard to imagine that it would dare to bomb nuclear facilities without some kind of understanding from the American side. At this stage, all of this looks like part of the negotiations over the nuclear deal. Let's reason this out. What would happen if Iran targets American bases as it threatens to do? The Iranians won't start a war against the Americans, otherwise the Americans would destroy them and that would be the end of it. Despite repeatedly mentioning failed negotiations, both sides continue to return to the bargaining table. And again, on Sunday, they will do it once more. Because Trump's goal is to keep following the negotiation track, at least until he sees that some necessary results have not been achieved. Only then will he likely consider acting differently. But for now, everything remains in the negotiation phase. And this is where it gets most interesting. The thing is, many experts estimate the likelihood of a massive strike on Iran at about 90% if the United States-Iran negotiations on June 15th fail. They draw attention to United States intelligence data published in the media about Israel's plans to attack key Iranian nuclear facilities at Fordo and Natanz, and to the fact that these plans are confirmed by the Israeli Air Force conducting exercises involving F-35 and F-15 fighter jets, as well as reconnaissance drones. Therefore, if the negotiations fail, it is obvious that Israel and the United States could indeed launch attacks on Iran. But at the moment, all this increased activity still looks more like a diplomatic trick to force Iran to conduct proper negotiations by Sunday. That is, this fits exactly with the timing of the key negotiations on Sunday, and a few days before that, the situation in the region is being escalated as much as possible. So, friends, I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions about this situation in the comments below this episode. Write your opinion. What do you think? Is this a diplomatic trick, or have we really reached the point where Israel and the United States will launch a massive attack on Iran in the near future? Write in the comments, subscribe to the channel, click the bell, and don't forget to like.